I'm turning the recorder on. It's 6:00 p.m. This is May 17th, 2022. This is the Bluff Town Council regular meeting. Roll call.
Linda Sosa.
Luann Hook.
Grant Murray.
Ann Lepinen. Jim Sayers is excused. Before we move into the approval of Bluff Town Council minutes, I want to point out that Linda Sosa corrected me. It was not 6:36, it was 5:33. I don't know what I was looking at when I said we started the CDBG public hearing at 6:36. 5:33 was when we started. So thank you, Linda, for correcting that. Then the first item is approval of Bluff Town Council regular meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2022. Did everybody receive them? Have you reviewed them? And are there any corrections or comments?
Motion to approve is presented, Mayor.
I can second.
Any discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then the next are the Bluff Town Council regular meeting minutes of May 10th, 2022. Same question. Has everybody received them? Did you review them? And are there any corrections or changes? Any comments?
Hearing none, motion to approve is presented for the May 10th minutes also, Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Brant?
I said aye. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Anyone opposed? Then it's unanimous. The last one is the approval of the Bluff Town Council public hearing on the budgets from May 12th, 2022 budget hearing.
Mayor, I missed that meeting, so I'll abstain from that.
Any comments from Linda or Luann regarding the minutes?
I'll motion that we approve.
Is there a second? Linda's
I
mouse. Oh, okay.
I second.
Then Linda seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Brant,
Anyone opposed? Brant abstains. Anyone opposed? Then 3 ayes and 1 abstention, 1 excused absence. So the next thing is public comment. There'll be a 3-minute time limit for each person wishing to comment. If you exceed the 3 minutes, somebody will mute you, but I'm not really sure who will, because I don't know who's in control right now. So are there any public comments? And if there are, just
I just want to say that I'm covering as office at Town of Bluff also, so I just let a few people in and all we've done is approve the minutes.
are there any public comments? If there are, unmute yourself. There's still a couple people joining, so I'll repeat this. If you have a public comment unmute and let us know. All right, hearing an absent of public comment, we'll move to the unfinished business. The first one is a request by Comb Ridge Eat and Drink for local consent for a change in the alcohol license. And the change is a change in location. So this is by Russ Wheeler. And because we hadn't done one of these in a couple of years, I talked with Stephanie Hansen, who is the regional person for the town of Bluff at the Division of Alcoholic Beverages. And I wanted to be sure we were doing this correctly in the event that we approve the local consent now so that it can get on the agenda with the Alcohol Commission on, I believe it's the 20th of June. And that application the local consent and the application have to be in by June 10th to get on that agenda. But I wanted to be sure that if we signed the local consent for the change of address, that if the plan as laid out to move the business for some reason doesn't work out, have we jeopardized two alcohol licenses? And we do not. We're fine with signing the local consent to keep this process moving. And Stephanie Hansen will be monitoring it. If there are any glitches, we'll be able to work through her and make sure that everybody keeps their license as they have it. So with that, does anyone have a thought, a question? And is there a motion?
So, by granting this consent tonight, we are not jeopardizing either of these previous licenses. That's correct. I just heard you say that, Mayor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve this as presented.
I second it.
Any discussion? And I will assure both businesses that I will stay in touch with Stephanie Hansen as things move along. So if there's any concern, we know what we're doing and we don't jeopardize their licenses. So all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous.
Let's see, just for clarifying, they currently have a wine and beer, and that's what they're carrying on.
So the license doesn't change at all. It just changes the location of the license. Which I was just with Bob Springmeyer last night, and he was strongly urging someone in town, anyone, to get a off sale permit. And I'm like, I don't think so. All right, then Brant, can you give an update on the CCC design review team meetings?
Yes, ma'am. We have not met in a week or so, and our next meeting is scheduled for June 7th or 14th. We haven't zeroed in on. Our last time we were together, we talked about weeds. So we've been working on the weeds in the front, trying to get the place looking a little bit better. So I don't have a big update for tonight, but there is going to be a large meeting the first week in June. So we'll keep you posted on that first or second week in June. Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions from the council?
Is this meeting inside the building or outside, like they did the last one?
It's an in-person meeting, Linda. We haven't made provisions about where it'll be, but we'll let you know as that unfolds.
And I talked with Grant a little bit today about the design review committee, and I've asked that I be included in that meeting just so that I can kind of keep track of the progress, particularly in light of the change in fiscal years. I want to be able to stay a little more on top than I have been.
We'll welcome you and let you know, Mayor. Thanks.
It'll either be the first or the second Tuesday of June, and they usually meet at 2 o'clock. Then number 3, update on the Gets cards. Thank you, Lou. They came. I've done what I needed to do. I don't know who else has done theirs, but if anybody asks, I have Sayer's card in a secure place. So when he gets back from wherever he is, we can give him his card. Anybody have trouble following those steps?
Thank you, Lou. Thanks for getting on top of that for us.
Okay, we might get a little feedback. So I've talked with the Gets WEPS person, Kathy Orcutt, and the one question that I still had was whether or not we needed to do the WEPS, they call it the WPS, which is priority for cell phones. And I thought that since the Gets you can use on your cell phone, we didn't need to do that, but she strongly encourages it. And she wants us to practice some meeting, maybe in our next work session, we can all call each other. She said, just call each other during a meeting and see how it works. Pull up your cards and give each other calls. So the way she described it is that it's like going to the airport and you get on one plane, you get into the airport, then you walk down the corridor, then you get on another plane. And that's what the WEPS does, is it connects the landline and one, like say Verizon, and then you go landline, and then that connects you to like AT&T, a different provider. So we do need to get that. And what I need in order to do that, hold on here, let me get Rick in. And in order to do that, I need to get everybody's cell phone carrier and their account number. And that might be something when I would like to get a few more need to be added on for the fire department. She would strongly encourage that. And then also we have a town manager, so that would be a good one to add. And maybe she could help collect all of this information, but one way or the other, we need to do that part.
Any questions?
But you can also do this on a landline, is that right?
Right, that's what the Gets part is. So the Gets part is an automatic, you can get through on the landline and they'll put you right through. But when you switch over to the cell phones, and that's when, if you're using a cell phone, that's when you need the WPS.
One of the things that Kathy Orcutt suggested in a conversation with her is once we get all these cards activated, we get the Gets and the WEPS activated, and if we're working with the fire department and EMS or any other agency, that we actually do a mock drill, where we have something that happens and we actually try to use the phones and figure out the system. And I think that's a really good idea. So once we get everything coordinated with the cards and the departments, and I think we should organize a mock drill.
Yeah, and she said you can, just like I put a call right through. It's a real simple system. You just call it. It gives you the tone. You put in the number, but everybody needs to be real familiar with it and know where it is, where your number is. Okay, so the other part of that is there's an app for that, and the app now is clear for Apple phones and all the rest. And so the app you download for free, and then that keeps track of all of those numbers, so you can just call through the app. And I have not downloaded that one yet, but that is something that we'll need to do too, to make it to where it's faster on your phone and you don't have to wonder where your card is and whatnot. It also puts all your contacts into that app. But anyway, she just told me about that just yesterday or day before.
Yeah, I actually downloaded the app. I probably can't see it. I actually downloaded it when I was talking with her in the training a couple of months back. So
that's a different one.
A different one from
We'll see. She called it a dialer app. It's anyway, but that's the part we still need to make sure everybody's got, because it downloads all your contacts and
Right. This is the one that she had us download and I did the training.
yeah, and mine's on there too, so it might be that same one.
Well, we can get everybody set up. It's a good work session. Wanted to get us all set up.
And she also offered to come back and do another presentation if we wanted that. I said I would extend the offer, but so far I didn't think we needed one just yet.
I think we shall get set up first and then take advantage of it. All right, anything further on that? Then moving to number 4, the status of the fuels reduction grant through Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. So first I want to thank Jim Hook and Jackie Warren for staying on this with Duncan Puchis. But what Duncan told us, he's with the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Land, that he's been notified that the project here has been funded for tamarisk and olive removal work in Bluff. We've been talking about this for 3 years now. This is super exciting. Now we will need to get into the real planning where everything actually gets put down on paper and start to put together scopes of work and contracts. He'll be reaching out to get the plan going. As far as the timeline goes, if we're on top of our planning, we will be able to make this work happen over next winter, potentially. Not much else to share at this point. So it's moving, and thank you to Duncan, but thanks to Jackie and Jim for continuing to work on this. Questions? Not that I know anything, so. Okay. Moving to number 5, Dr. Barentine sent his contract over. It was extremely straightforward, just exactly what he had told us it would be. He estimated $2,200 in work to be able to review our ordinance on lighting and make any suggested changes or things that we might be lacking for international dark sky application. And I believe I don't have the contract with me. I believe the turnaround time though is the end of this month or the middle of June. It's a pretty quick turnaround. So I'm anxious to see what he has, but he's already started on it.
Wonderful news. Good job, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not going to exceed $2,200. And so hopefully we'll get some suggestions and recommendations or things that we need to correct. All right, now moving to new business. Chris McEnany sent to me the beginning of last week the employment contract, actually the middle of the week. It was probably Wednesday because I didn't have it for the Tuesday meeting last week. And I made one suggestion and I kind of lost track of it in my brain. So today it occurred to me I hadn't heard anything back from Erin Richards about her review of it because Chris was going to make the correction or suggestion and then send it on to Erin. My understanding is, and I'm going to put Erin on the spot, is that she did not get it from Chris.
That's correct. I have not yet received it. I've checked both emails, but I haven't seen anything.
And I haven't seen the recommended change I made. So I will call him tomorrow and find out what's going on with it. It was consistent with what Aaron, Linda, and I had talked about and more or less negotiated that we laid out the other meeting, but I just put it all into writing for Aaron's review and then our approval. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to defer this to the next meeting, which I didn't want to do, but I think unless we call a special meeting and maybe after I see it, I might want to get everybody together for 5 minutes to approve it. But let me work with Chris and find out what happened.
Mayor, I was just sitting here thinking about how fortunate we are to have Erin as our town manager. So I just want to welcome her again. Signs the contract, but soon.
You're very kind. Thank you, Brant. I'm excited. The work that's going on so far is great, and just looking forward to being able to serve my community again. So thank you.
And actually, I want to add that Erin has been asking some questions and then kind of letting me know where she's working on projects. And one of the things that she asked, which was on my list, but it was like not in my head, was we really need to have a notary public on this, among all of us. And we talked about maybe the office clerk doing it, but it makes sense with the manager that the manager get the notary information and make the application. So Erin brought that up on her own, and that is an excellent suggestion. So thank you, Erin, for being so thoughtful looking forward. And I will touch base with you tomorrow after I talk with Chris.
Thank you, Ann.
So the next thing in that category was, Lou, let's see. I have Linda down for this, but do we have all the employment stuff that we need for the audio visual tech? Linda?
We need a copy of his social security number, a copy of the back of his driver's license. And I think that's it. I've received several things already. We also need at some point to write up a policy of what he does and when and that kind of thing.
And just to interject just a little bit, Luann and I have been touching base regarding kind of like that job description, and I'll be reaching out to Craig regarding, the step-by-steps of, what all goes into the role. So we are starting on that as well. So thanks, Linda.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, was for Lou, whether that policy was being worked on. So.
Yes, Erin sent this. She found some things online and I reviewed it and then sent it back, and it all looks just right. And I let her know kind of how the system works up here and all the doors that have different parts and pieces, and just sort of the logistics of it at the moment anyway, while we're meeting in here.
Anything else on that?
Well, I guess for next steps on that, it's kind of in Erin's court to deal with whoever needs to see it.
Okay, so probably this is a good time just to remind everybody that all work requests for Erin have to come through me first so that I can track them. So just everybody remember, if we need to have Erin do something, I just need to be kept in the loop, or I'll have no idea when I'm writing her review what she's done. Although Erin's really good about reporting back, but just
No, I apologize, Ann. I should have reached out to you. That actually, I generated that and sent it on to Lou that, hey, this is something that I've been thinking about. So
I think it's good, and I
Bring
think
it all
we
together.
just keep moving. I like how you've been doing kind of like a flow chart of keeping lists of stuff, so that helps a lot. And it's something we do want to get in place sooner rather than later.
I'd like to have that ready for the next regular meeting first week in
Okay.
June.
And I think one of the things we probably should talk about, and can't really do it now, but kind of how Erin fits into our meetings and how we have coordination with all 5 of us knowing what Erin is doing. Do we have a everybody give that some thought. Do we have a category that's standing on our meeting agenda that Erin's going to kind of fill us in on what we need to know? Do we do it some other way? And so maybe, Erin, that's something you can be thinking about too. What's the best way to update all of us without causing you a whole lot more work with 5 of us asking you questions?
And just to clarify on that one, it seems to me like when we decided on a town manager, the person would work for the mayor. So, and like this policy was something that I said, I read policy that will pass the mustard. So I was just looked to see, let her know what he does and what we do, and then policy and job descriptions and stuff are out of my.
I'm glad to see it's moving forward. That,
Mhm.
something we want to be sure that everybody knows what Craig does and doesn't do. So,
And we're still working on some of our speaker difficulties, and we'll keep tweaking that.
well, Craig's doing a good job, so I'm happy. Number 7 is interesting in that Scott Wood um, purchased a piece of property which is in Cottonwood Edition, and what his request is, so it's on the terrible direction, the south side of the road, um, back by the Cottonwood RV Park area. And we've talked about this a little bit with Michael about the road, but where the highway is, there's that parallel access road that runs over to Jackie Warren's property, and then there's the road or access corridor that runs to those properties that are in the back of that section. And so every time it rains, it's a muddy mess. So Scott is interested in knowing if that is a road, that piece, and if it's a road, is the town going to help maintain it? And if it's not a legal road, what does he need to do to make it a road and usable? And so I talked with Michael Havocan a couple weeks ago and had him meet with Scott Wood just to kind of feel it out. I don't really have enough information to say anything more than this, but there are 5 parcels owned by 5 different people back there that are affected by this. So I'd like to put this on a work session. With Jim Sayers being gone, I don't think there's any point in doing a work session until the first part of June. But I'd like to put that on along with, the never-ending saga of access and alleys. But, try to sort this one out, whether there's a road there isn't a road, what would they need to do to make it acceptable, that kind of thing. Any thoughts on that?
So is it the frontage road then?
No, it's the one that runs parallel to, okay, if you turn on at the dairy bar and you're headed to Jackie's, make that right hand turn that goes down straight to those parcels in the back. So back behind the tiny house. Yeah. And I can't, let's see. Michael had done some looking at it, and I think if we did a work session, we had Michael Havocan come in to explain what he found and then what he told them about road standards. I think that would be helpful.
So it sounds like it would be second from the one that would cut right into the middle of the school. If it had gone through, it would be second that would go over the top of the road and south.
I think so. So that's kind of what that question is for the work session. Anything else, Brant or Linda, on that? Okay, moving to number 8. I met with Ginny Burns last week. I still don't have a handle on the facts of this, so I'll just tell you what the question is. Ginny met with Dr. Grant Sonata, the public health administrator, and with Rebecca Benally about a week or so ago. There is a grant that needs to be used where there's somewhere around $10,000 or $12,000, and they wanted they talked to Ginny about doing it as a quote, pass-through, end quote, grant to the food pantry. And what Ginny was told, and what she told me, is that the town, it has to pass through an entity. So it would have to pass through the town to go to Ginny and for use at the food pantry. Now, there were a couple of things that were really unclear about, okay, say we agree to be the pass-through entity and they give her $10,000 and they write the check for 10,000 and we put it in our account. Then, as I understand it from Ginny, she just makes a request of us to say, I need $500 to buy this. And then we write a check for 500 to her, but there's no receipting, there's no tracking, there's no anything. We just get the money and we pass it out. I was not comfortable in even doing anything with this until we talked to Rebecca Benali and Dr. Sonata. So I sent an email that same day to them, and I heard back today, but I was traveling, so I didn't read it. But Rebecca has asked that I give her some times that we can meet. And so by the time we meet the next time, which I think is the 3rd of June, I'll have more information. In a real world, in my mind, that's a great idea to get money to the food pantry. But we need to know what we're getting, how it gets used, what we have to do for accounting purposes, and particularly for Linda, who would have to be tracking this. What does she need to track for our auditors? So I've told Ginny I'll get back with her as soon as I meet with Rebecca and or Grant Sonata. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it also sets a precedent. So whatever we do, we'll set a precedent if we're asked again at some point.
My thought initially, Mayor, is to pass the whole amount through, and it would be kind of once and done. Let's find out more information, but I think I'd prefer to do that than rather us track it for her.
Well, I'll get more information, I hope, when I meet with them, and I'll bring that back. Hopefully.
Excuse me. I would ask our accountant just to make sure that there's nothing that will mess up the accounting through them.
So that's a really good idea. And I had planned on doing that once I know what they're asking. Yeah, obviously we need to do that, and then Linda would have to figure out how to do it, what she has to keep track of. I'm edgy because the idea that we would take money and just hand it out without tracking it and receipts, I'm not quite sure how that works. So
Yeah, that's where I think if you maybe ask the accountant before you meet up with them, he might give you something to ask.
I could do that. Okay, now moving to number 9, I'm not going to say I sent out the Bureau of Land Management letter for Colorado Outward Bound that I talked about last week, which I thought I sent out, but apparently I did not. So I got that to everybody. Again, it's another one of those letters that tells us that the permittee has requested to lead backpacking and guiding services in the Maco Mesa and Lockhart Basin areas in Bears Ears National Monument. And then they sent their effect finding, and then they give us, roughly 30 days to respond if we have any concerns. So if you've read it, are there any concerns, anything that we should be looking at? So I'm not hearing anything. I'm not sure if I sent this off to Britt Hornsby, but since I thought I sent it to everyone, I have no idea if I did. So I'll check with Britt and see what his thinking is on it.
My only comment would be that it's not within the town. It's a BLM. I appreciate that they've put it out to us in case we have comment, but they're pretty low impact. They're out backpacking and no more impact than the rest of the crew. So anyway, it looks fine to me.
Then Linda, do you want to report on the San Juan County Tourism Tax Advisory Board meeting?
The Tourism Tax Board is a marketing part of economic development, and it's funded with transient room taxes. And so we are continuing what we were doing last year, which in terms of marketing, the marketing campaign for last year was Love Mother Nature. Sort of like go outside and play, love Mother Nature. And there are 4 different messages on Facebook. The one that's getting the most feedback, positive feedback, is the one that's for dark skies. So that was kind of exciting because that's what we're hoping to connect with. The county is already getting a lot of tourists from abroad. Our group is looking at biking from Monument Valley to Spanish Valley, low-income housing, camping sites, and getting more information to travelers. And Rick Reed and Jen Davila are also on this board.
Any questions for Linda or any comments?
Thank you, Linda.
So hearing none, thanks, Linda. Then we'll move on to the meeting with Canyon Country Discovery. Lou, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, are you sure you want me to give the rundown? So Ann and I had a meeting, a virtual meeting with Canyon Country Discovery, Dave Bastian, and he is one that can put crews together to do projects. They're a crew of outside working type kits. So they can come and do, like we talked about, doing some more on the giant cane. We talked about a lot of different projects that they might be able to work on. Talked about Barwell Park. That's a possibility. We talked about maybe making that a possible, looking at like a native plants garden, a park in there. There's water there and that sort of thing. So he just is offering up his crew. They have worked on the trail down at Sand Island in the past and done some weed work. They did a bunch of planting of willows, one stretch for the riparian zone. So then we connected them, we connected them because we felt like Joe Hubbard out at the mission and Reagan White-Skaluski with the USU Extension would be good ones to connect with. And so there's another meeting scheduled for next week, I believe. Go for it, Ann.
Well, that's a pretty good synopsis. We just kind of brainstormed about what different projects we might have that they could help with. And there's a price tag to most of these projects. We'd have to be putting some money in. But if we used it, if we looked at projects like Barwell, we've got some park money and things like that. So we're just having a discussion. I don't want anybody thinking a decision's been made at all. We're just trying to get together an interested group because they like to do big projects, and even something like Barwell is not a big project. And so the suggestion was we team up with other people, which is Joe Hubbard and Reagan White-Skaluski, and see if we can pull together enough small projects to make a big project. Also, Friends of Cedar Mesa, the assistant executive director, had some interest in this as well, and I'm meeting, excuse me, with Chris tomorrow to hear what Friends of Cedar Mesa was thinking about as possible projects. So it might be if we pool our projects, we've got a big enough project for them to consider and then look at the funding that might be necessary. So I think that's probably about it.
Yeah, they also said they like to do projects that let the kids learn skills that do well for them out in the real world. So like if there was an irrigation project, that kind of thing. And the other part of this that I didn't mention at first is that they are part of the AmeriCorps group. It's an offshoot of them. And that's how we all got connected, was those other couple of AmeriCorps meetings. And he wanted to talk with us and see what all our ideas were.
Any thoughts, Brant or Linda, or does that sound okay to keep looking at that?
Sounds good.
Just did a great job for us earlier and look forward to having them back in our community. What a great group.
And this Canyon Country Discovery Center, this is the base, they're based out of Monticello. And so it's related to the AmeriCorps, but it's a different group than what was here that was stationed here for those 6 weeks. And it'd be a different crew than would be the 12-week one next winter. It's another group.
There are a lot of groups. They have a lot of divisions. Moving to number 12. The Cadillac Ranch RV Park was sold, which, you know, the Bluff rumor mill, people had heard it. And the owners reached out to me to talk about the drainage there under 191 going down to the river on through their property. And they're quite concerned about the drainage should there be a flood. So I went over to look at it because I think you've all figured out that directions are not my strong point. So I went over to walk it and look at it. And so it's that culvert, you know, comes out of Calf Canyon, then comes down through that culvert and goes down toward the river. And there's a lot of blow sand in there that, in the drainage. So I had a number of questions. I picked Jackie Warren's brain the other day about what she remembered about the stormwater projects. I'll look at the plans. I'm talking to Bill Balaz, Tetra Tech, but the sense I'm getting is that this was not a part of that stormwater project, but I can't say that with certainty. And the question that they asked was whether or not this was something that the town manages. If so, what is our plan to manage this and clean it up? Or if it's not, if it's on them, then what they need to do. So we're sorting it out. I think they've had a couple people take a look at it in terms of scope of work to clean it up. But right now, I had a really great time talking with the owner. She's going to be a great addition to Bluff. But I just said, I don't know enough about this particular section to have any meaningful conversation without looking at the plans and talking to a couple people and then getting a hold of the engineers. And then also because that culvert is under 191, you know, what obligation does UDOT have, or what obligation don't they have? So I'm checking it out, and I'll get back with everybody on this. But if you have any suggestions on resources for me to look at this, let me know. Okay, if there's no questions, then the next is Linda and I went to the Bluff Waterworks meeting May 11th, 2022. Just pull up my notes here. Don't think there was anything particularly of particular interest in the water's doing well, the plant's doing well. they've had some issues with getting a balance with the chlorine to the water and whatever. And Mark's said that out in Copper Cliff 2, he's probably going to try to put the meters in all at one time that need to go out there, even though there's not a work order at this point for them, but there will be. So it'd be more efficient to do it all at once. And then they were quite interested at the end about knowing what our discussion with Sunrise was about, you know, what Sunrise had to say, and on the water rights and perfecting everything. Linda, is there anything else that you can think of that was of interest? You're muted.
Part of the reason they wanted to do it all at once is because of they're going to need equipment to do trenches to connect things. So that was definitely more efficient than doing it piece by piece.
Was there any update on the meters in the pits, replacing all the radio meters?
There was just some discussion about how some meters were working better than others. And so they were having to do some, some hands-on readings versus being able to do it all electronically.
They had said at the meeting that I went to that they had a whole new set of meters or radios coming in, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I think that's what that report was about, was the ones that came in, they put in. Because when our meter was being read in our house, I came out and the meter reader was on the ground doing things manually. And it was because our meter wasn't connecting well to the electronic system. But I think those meters are in or pretty close to it. But that was the only thing that was said. Some are functioning better. Most of them are functioning well. There's some they still have a glitch with.
Well, if they're in, they're still missing some if they've already installed them.
Well, maybe that's a question you could ask at the next BWW meeting. It's just, the next one is, I wrote it down. If I don't write it down, it doesn't get here. June 8th, 7:00 p.m. Which actually, one other thing about the BWW and water, I had a very thoughtful email to the town this past week from a resident asking questions about the water and the aquifer and the how these different water contracts are going to impact Bluff, or how that all fits together. And I think, we've got a unique situation in that Bluff Water Works maintains and operates the water system. And I think a lot of these questions, people should really be going to the BWW meetings and asking these questions, because that's probably, for some of the questions I've been getting, more efficient, since it's more related to the water quality and the water availability and what projections might be if we have a rapid growth spurt. So just a reminder, they meet the second Wednesday of the month at 7:00 at the library. So people should really think about going and talking about this water crisis that's going on all over. I did not make the San Juan County Commission meeting today because I was traveling. I looked at the agenda before. I looked at it over the weekend, and I didn't see anything that was particularly focused on Bluff, although I was curious as to how the hearing went yesterday before Judge Torgerson on the temporary restraining order. But since I didn't listen to the meeting, I don't have an update on that.
I listened to the middle of the meeting. A great deal of it was about fire, the drought and fire. And what's being done right now, prescribed burns, things like that.
Well, I'll go in and listen to it at some point this week and update with the next meeting, because our next meeting will also be their next one. Then number 14, the financial report, Linda.
So Brant did the April bank reconciliation. I sent out the April financial report, the first part of April. And I also sent out the list of bills today of what our bills are for May. So are there any questions about it? And we need to approve paying them.
Thank you, Linda. Great reporting. Reconciliation. I'll make a motion to pay those bills as presented, Mayor.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion or questions? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
All right.
Anyone opposed? Then it's unanimous. Okay, we're at the other. I have two others. I noticed at the post office that there's an announcement saying that San Juan County will be down here from the weeds department on the 20th, which I think is this Friday, between 8 and 10 a.m. if people want, I think it's spray, some kind of chemical. So this coming Friday, the announcements at the, at the post office on the board. And then I think that's a good reminder that San Juan Commission's making on the drought. It's dry and the fire risks are high. And today the National Weather Advisory for southeastern and southwestern Utah is, what's it called? The red flag. Excuse me. That they're expecting high winds, extremely dry conditions. So I know that the board by the post office says that, it's high. So let's everybody think about what we're doing in terms of preventing fires at this point. We sure would like to get through the year without having anything happen. So anything that produces sparks or any kind of burning, pay attention. Anybody have any other?
My other is that there's another road meeting. I sent that invitation to you, wondering if you wanted to join, or that's the week that Erin will be in town. Maybe she would need to get to know some of those people. But anyway, that's next week, and it is in Moab. It's in person. I don't know, Michael, I don't believe went to the last one, but he was on the invite list to go to this one. And I haven't heard from him how involved he still is. So that's coming up. And that's the regional, they'll probably give us reports more than, it doesn't sound like they want ideas this time, although they'll probably come up. But it's the regional UDOT trying to figure out what the area needs in the rural area of the state.
I most likely will want to go to it. I just couldn't check my paper calendar today, so I'll take a look, Lou, and get back with you. Oh, one other thing on the other, speaking of roads, the stop sign at 191 and West 7th was sheared off last week. So Helgerson Property Management came over and looked at it and put it up. I don't know if Steve had a chance yet to talk to UDOT, but I talked with Sam Cantrell and he said that is UDOT's sign, but it had to go up because we're getting so many people coming up West 7th and turning around and then shooting back down. If they're not familiar with it, I've seen twice last week, Friday, motorcycles come up, turn around, and then shoot down and just make a right-hand turn without even hesitating while that sign was down. So it's up now. And I'll talk with Steve about coordinating with UDOT if he hadn't already done it. So thanks, Steve. Anybody else have another? It's 6:55 p.m. without Sayers. We got through this in an hour.
I did say there's a planning and zoning meeting tomorrow night, 6:00. And their web address for the meeting is on the website. Sorry, I'm hearing my echo up here and it's a little hard to stay talking. But anyway, tomorrow night at 6:00.
Thank you. So it's 6:56 now.
Mayor,
Yes.
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Our next meeting is June 3rd, the first Tuesday of the month. I'm turning off the recorder. Thank you
Thanks.
all.